Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to what I anticipate will be the final Cat Chat Live of our 2024-2025 academic year. It's hard to believe that reading days and finals and commencement are so close, but here we are, and I'm really excited about today's topic. Soon I'll introduce you to part of the team in Education Abroad and Exchanges. They're going to share some really great information, demystifying the study abroad experience. My name is Nancy Stevens. I'm a communications manager working with parents and families in our Office for Student Success, and so glad that you have taken the time to be here with us today. Maybe you've participated in the Cat Chat Live webinar series at other points in the school year. We hope you've enjoyed those. If you have not, I want to let you know that we are excited to share this information and then to take questions from you. My colleagues have left plenty of time for questions, so please do use that Zoom Q&A feature to share anything you want to know more about, and we'll take as many of your questions as we can in the next hour. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available in the Cat Chat family community after today's webinar, so you can always go back, rewatch it, or if you're not able to join us for the entire time, you can catch whatever you missed. At the end of the webinar today from Zoom, you'll get a link to a survey asking about your experience with Cat Chat Live. It's also a place where we'll ask you to share any additional topics you would hope to see in future Cat Chat Lives. So we hope you'll take just a minute of your time and give us a little bit of feedback. That means a lot to us. As I said, I think this will be our last Cat Chat Live of the 24-25 school year, but soon enough it will be time for especially our incoming students and families to prepare for the next school year at UK. And so the Cat Chat Live series with special intention for our incoming families will start in June and July. More information will be available about all of those dates and topics in the Cat Chat family community. Hopefully our Cat Chat family community is a resource you're using to get good information about UK. I'll make sure I put a link in the chat for those of you who may want to sign up for the Cat Chat community, family community, or share it with somebody else in your student support system. And then certainly at the end, we'll make sure that you have contact information for any remaining questions or concerns you may have about today's topic, about UK, or your students' experience. So without further ado, I want to turn things over to my colleagues in Education Abroad and Exchanges. I was telling them as we were about to get started that my own study abroad experience as an undergraduate was transformational, truly a highlight of my college experience. And so as I'm working with students on campus, I try to send as many of them over as possible to talk to Education Abroad and Exchanges, because I do think that their title today about demystifying really speaks to a lot of what we do, where students think that maybe it's not going to be for them or it won't work, and we're here to share all the ways that it really can work and be a really rich and rewarding part of their undergraduate experience. So thanks so much for being here with us today, and I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Nancy. Hi, everyone. My name is Niamh Larson, and I'm the Executive Director for Education Abroad and Exchanges here at the University of Kentucky. I've been working at the University of Kentucky for about 10 years in education abroad, and in the field in general, I am almost 20 years working in education abroad. So this is truly a passion for what I do. I, like Nancy, had a really transformational education abroad experience in my undergrad. I studied abroad for a summer in Spain. And then when I was doing my master's program, I did a semester-long exchange in Finland. So I also had many fond memories, and really it was career changing for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I, quote, grew up. But after studying abroad, I realized that that was a career path that I wanted to pursue to enable and help other students have these types of transformational experiences. So I'm going to introduce my co-presenter, Kate. So I will let you take it away and introduce yourself.
Yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Kate Meyer. I'm the Associate Director here at the University of Kentucky. I'm a newer transplant to Lexington. I come from the north at the University of Minnesota, in the Twin Cities is where I most recently lived. I also was a study abroad student. I come from a Pell Grant, farming, rural, middle of nowhere cornfield background. So I never thought study abroad was something that I could, one, that it was for me, and two, that I could afford. but I was able to make it happen. And so that experience of living in Japan for a semester, doing an internship there, a language intensive program, kind of led me to going back to Japan, teaching English there. And I found that it's more of a not necessarily a career, but like a need for me to really help students from similar backgrounds to mine, get them abroad, make them understand that this can be for you. And so hopefully I'm able to bring that for you and your students as part of our team here in Bradley Hall on campus. I know a lot of our staff feel the same way. It's not just a career, this is something that we truly believe in, and we're happy to be helpful to you and to your students. And we also would be remiss without saying hello to Chelsea. Do you want to introduce yourself as well? You're just not hiding in the background.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chelsea Bullums. I do PR and outreach for Education Abroad and Exchanges. So I handle our marketing. If you happen to follow any of our social media accounts, that is under my jurisdiction as well. And I always my elevator pitch about my job is I always say that it is my job to help convince your UK students to leave once they come here. So to go somewhere wonderful and have a great study abroad experience. So I will be running the slides today, but if you, I don't know, happen to have any questions about any of that, I'm happy to answer that.
Perfect. Well, we will go ahead and jump into our presentation. So on our first slide, we will, let's see. It's coming. Great. Perfect. So just a little bit of overview of what is Education Abroad. We're also known as the Study Abroad Office. So we kind of go by both names. We use the term Education Abroad because we offer a lot more opportunities than just students doing a traditional study program, which we'll talk about in the next slide. Basically, our office facilitates programs that allow students to earn academic credit in another country, another state, or US territory. So we actually both have international-based programs as well as domestic programs where students can go abroad or away to study and earn academic credit. We have programs for all majors. So no matter what a student is studying here at UK, there is an opportunity for them to go abroad. And the great news is that your financial aid and scholarships are able to be used for education abroad programs. Our office is here to support your students throughout the entire application process, as well as while they are abroad. One thing that we often tell students is that you're able to go abroad as early as the summer after your first year at UK. You do need a UK GPA to apply. So usually if students take classes their first semester, apply their second semester, they could go abroad as early as their summer after their first year. For some students, that's the best time for them to go academically as part of their degree plan. For other students, it's better for them to wait a little bit later on as part of their degree. We have programming as short as a week. So we do have students who go abroad during UK's spring break in the spring semester to as long as an academic year. Students are able to choose based on what they're interested in and what is best for them academically to go abroad where and when and how long. So those are all choices that we help your students make as part of the research and selection process for education abroad. On the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the different types of experiences. So like I mentioned, we do have study, which is our traditional, you go abroad and you take a class, but we also have opportunities for students to do internships abroad, as well as research. For students who are in the College of Education, they can actually complete their required student teaching abroad as part of their degree. And then we also have service learning, which is students being able to go abroad and do 4-credit volunteer opportunities in local communities. So again, we try and provide many different opportunities for students based on what they are interested in. And then in the next slide, we'll dig a little bit deeper into the types of programs. So all of the different types of experiences, there's also different types of programs. Our most popular type of program is what we call a faculty-directed program. That is where a UK faculty member brings a group of UK students abroad, usually during the summer, but there are spring break and winter options as well. The students are enrolled in UK courses, earning UK credit and grades, and they they pay their bill through the University of Kentucky. So everything is posted onto their UK student account. We have, for the partner programs, we have basically partnerships with US organizations that are based here in the US that help us facilitate these international experiences. The students go abroad again for a short term or a long term, depending on what they're interested in, to different universities and study centers all around the world. They can take a variety of courses based on what they are majoring in, what they are interested in. The majority of the students who are with them on their program are other US students from colleges and universities around the country. For most of those programs, the students will pay some things to UK, including some tuition and some fees, and then they pay the majority of their program fee to that partner directly. For the exchanges, those are what most people think of as a traditional study abroad, where we send a student to a partner institution abroad, and that partner institution sends a student to the University of Kentucky. The students pay UK tuition, and that covers the tuition for the student who comes here. They are taught usually by international faculty at that institution. Depending on the size and type of the institution, there may be a ton of different courses available. Some of the institutions are very specific based on a field of study. So it really just depends on what type of institution the student is applying to. And they're doing those courses with other US students, other international students from that host institution. And like I said, they are billed UK tuition that covers the tuition costs for the students who come to study here at UK. And then the direct program that we have is where a student goes directly and enrolls in an international institution. Again, very similar to exchange, except it's a one-way program where we just send students to those international universities. The students are taking courses with international faculty and other international students, and they pay tuition directly to that host institution. Along the side, you can see on the screen, we talk about things from a level of support and independence. So for the faculty-directed programs, they're very, very organized. So the students have a really structured itinerary where the faculty members with them the entire time and provides them with a lot of guidance and support. The direct and exchange programs, the students are just like students at UK. They go to class, they might be involved in student orgs or activities, they live in a residence hall, but there's not necessarily as much structure to their days. So students are able to be a little bit more independent in exploring and meeting people and doing independent travel. But there is still support at that institution and from our university for those students when they're on those programs. All right, and then I will turn it over to Kate to talk about our next slides.
Yeah, so again, always support no matter what type of program a student chooses, both from our office and, while they're abroad. So a lot of students come to us and they're saying, okay, I'm interested, but what do I get out of it? What are the return on my investment, or maybe your investment if you're the one that is helping with the finances, which we'll get to in a little bit. So don't worry, we'll talk all about that stuff in a bit more detail. But benefits for studying abroad. On top of just learning more about themselves as a human being, they're also learning about the world they live in, all of the complex global issues, helping them really maximize on, again, that transformational learning with hands-on in the world experiences. We definitely like to tell students that it looks great on a resume, but there's a lot more than just that. So they are also becoming increasingly interconnected as our world continues to connect, and for good and for bad, and that comes with our being more intertwined together. Having a student experience that abroad really allows them to be more aware of the world, not just through intercultural awareness, but the understanding of how to work with complex structures, with people of different backgrounds, things that they're going to need to know on the job site. You're going to need to know how to deal with ambiguity, or how to deal with troubleshooting a problem, or sometimes getting lost is okay because you learn how to get out of those situations. Study abroad, education abroad in general, is a really good way to do that in a safer, kind of more structured way. We definitely see students come back, say that they feel that they have grown, not just with academics, but being more open-minded, that being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is a big thing that a lot of students come in worried that they're not going to know how to adapt. They're not going to know how to deal with certain things coming up. But study abroad and education abroad in general, again, helps them with that. And they come back more confident. They know a little bit more about themselves, the world, where they fit into it. Very much like Niamh had said, like she didn't know what she wanted to do when she grew up. But going abroad kind of helped open the eyes, helped figure out new and different options for our students. On the next slide, we also have some interesting stats from a survey that was done with one of our program partners called IES Abroad. They did a survey of all of the students that went on their programs for a time period and asked some questions to help us better understand that return on investment. So they found in that study that managers, people that are hiring, were really interested in that value of that international study experience. So that means students were able to talk more about behavioral skill sets that they've learned while they're abroad and bring it to the workforce. There is a higher percentage of students who went abroad that have a job secured a little bit faster than their peers that didn't get to go abroad. And a few years ago, when this survey was done, there was an average of $7,000 of a salary difference between those who studied abroad and those who did not. So again, there's a lot of anecdotal stories from students telling us very similar things like that. Also, other studies in the research arena of how education abroad really helps students, not just with their academics. Some studies have shown that they graduate with the 4-year degree a lot quicker if they do study abroad. They come back, they're more invested in their education because they've been reinvigorated by their time abroad. So there's a lot of little tidbits of perks, I guess, or benefits to taking a time, at least a semester, and going abroad. And a lot of people will then be like, well, how can I pay for it? It's expensive, right? And yes, it is not the cheapest thing out there, but higher education is not necessarily cheap either. What we really do want students to understand is that there are scholarships and ways to fund the experience. And we're happy to work with them to make sure that they understand that before they sign up for things. So EA here offers scholarships that are not based on financial or academic merits. They are based on goals. So we don't ask a student like financial questions. We want to know what are their goals connected to study abroad. Other departments around campus also offer incentives for students to study abroad in the form of scholarships. Some departments are really putting their money behind these experiences. So we mentioned faculty-directed programs. There are colleges that are really encouraging their faculty to take their students abroad. So more and more programs are being developed every year so that students of all different academic backgrounds can find a program that works for them. Niamh had touched on how University of Kentucky is very generous with its scholarships being pretty much usable for study abroad. Now there's always going to be little caveats to that. So definitely make sure that if you do use federal or state financial aid, that your student is talking with our office, also chatting with our friends over in the financial aid office. All the different scholarship pots of money that they're applying to. Always ask that question, like, can I bring this abroad with me? And again, I've worked at multiple other institutions. I will say that the University of Kentucky is very generous and very flexible with allowing those scholarship dollars to go with your students. And we do have on our website a database, so students should have a nice kind of like a starting point through our website. And that database will have, again, the departments and college level scholarships that we know of. It's never a bad idea to ask your, college or your academic advisors, just in case something new popped up and we didn't hear about it just yet. There's also scholarships for different types of programs. So if your student is going on a specific partner program that has scholarships, they're eligible to apply for those. So it's not just pots of money from the University of Kentucky. There are also outside entities that are there to help students. And kind of like a shameless plug for all of those that are Pell Grant eligible students and families, definitely take a look at the Gilman Scholarship. It is a great resource for low and lower socioeconomic backgrounded people to check out. So again, we're here to help students see that this is an opportunity that can happen. And on the next slide, Niamh's going to kind of walk us through what we do to help students understand the dollars and cents.
Yeah, so every program has it's an individual and unique price point, and we try to be as transparent as possible with listing all of the program expenses that including some estimates, so students have a good idea of how much a program will cost. And so kind of every program has what we call a cost sheet, and it'll be broken up by term. So this is an example of a cost sheet from a fall 2025 program. So there's the EA application fee that students are billed when they start an application for one of our programs. If students are not accepted into the program, they do get their application fee refunded if the students do not finish their application. However, that fee is non-refundable, and if students participate on the program, obviously that fee is not refundable. They also are charged 1 credit of UK tuition, which keeps them as a UK student enrolled at the university, and ensuring that they're able to use financial aid and scholarships. We do also have an international medical insurance policy that all students are required to take and pay for. That includes things like medical evacuation and repatriation, as well as depending on the situations, our policy does have inclusions to allow family members to travel abroad if a student is in the hospital, so that someone can be with the student while they are recovering from some sort of illness or hospitalization. And then this is an example of a program that has a lot of things that are not billed by the University of Kentucky directly. And some of these are estimated amounts, and some of these are specific amounts. So for example, we try and estimate airfare based on what we see airfare prices are looking and forecasting for the year. But then we know some things that are very specific amounts, like a passport. We know that a US passport costs $165. So again, we try to be really transparent with what students are paying for as part of the program fees for education abroad. And then on the next slide, what we have done is taken and shared what UK's cost of attendance is. So we pulled this straight off the financial aid website that shows how much you as families are paying for in-state or out-of-state students based on whether they live on campus or off campus, so that you have a good sense of what the cost of attending UK is. Oftentimes, many people think that studying abroad is, quote, so much more expensive than what it costs to attend at UK. And so we just are trying to, again, be transparent and make folks aware of the cost of coming to the University of Kentucky and either living on campus or off campus, and then the cost of an education abroad program. And so on the next slide, we've pulled a couple of program examples for you all to see. These are basically our top 5 places where students go abroad. And you can see we've pulled different types of program options. So Ireland is one of our exchange programs where students pay UK tuition. You can see for in-state students, the cost of attendance, which would equal the estimated cost of attendance at UK, is actually less than what the students would pay to live on campus here for a semester. And so you can see some of the partner programs in Greece, for example, is a little bit more than the cost of attendance for an in-state student at UK for a semester. And then this program down here in London is an example of the cost of a summer program. So again, we have multiple different price points, multiple different types of program options. And what we really try and help students to understand is the value of this experience. yes, it is an investment. You are investing in this experience, but we want to make sure students understand what they will be charged, what they will be paying, and help them have a good understanding of the financial commitments for participating in one of these programs. All right. Yeah, Kate, if you want to.
And I'll just note that those cost sheets are on every one of the program pages. So if you and your student are just doing a search, you will be able to find this cost sheet that is attached to that program. And if you're looking way in advance, so if your student is already thinking summer 28, like, yes, the cost sheets for those programs will not be updated, but from year to year, there really shouldn't be any extreme differences. Yes, we've seen flights go up a little bit, from last year to this year, but again, it will be updated by the time your student is trying to apply for that program. But yeah. So we're almost getting to the Q&A time, but what are some of the big things that we recommend you, as either the parent, the guardian, the financial involved person, or just someone that really cares about your student and wants to help them along the way? Definitely, it takes a village with getting education abroad planned for. So really encourage your students to have conversations with their academic advisors. We want these experiences to fit in with their 4-year here at the University of Kentucky. Pretty much every credit that you earn abroad, if you go through our office, will have a place on their transcript when they are done with their 4 years here. But definitely making sure that you can check some things off your to-do list with the study abroad helps with that return on investment. Definitely, we want them to keep on track. We want them to go abroad, have a great time, come back and finish their degree here in Lexington. The next step, as I kind of had already alluded, go and say hi to our friends over in financial aid and the academic scholarships teams. Talk about like what they're currently getting with the aid. If you've got a program already like in mind, having that general cost of what that program will be helpful when you do go and talk to these folks. And be aware that there are other types of funding aside from just loans, grants, and scholarships. We're in a world where there's increasing amount of 529 tuition savings accounts. Those are things that can come into the equation. Again, being able to proactively ask the right departments about those, like, can we use them? What do we need to make it usable? Have those questions asked and answered before your heart is fully set on a program, because there are going to be some limitations, and there's always, paperwork and red tape and things like that. So our job is to help you and your student deal with those proactively so that when you are preparing for your program abroad, it's as not anxiety inducing as possible. Another step that we like to recommend is to do the time and look at the different program options. I like to say, at least, there's a sliding scale of what you need and what you want. So if you have a location in mind, are you going to be able to be flexible when it comes to cost or the courses that are available there? Or are the courses the priority? So really having those conversations with your student on what do you want out of this experience? What do we need to get out of this experience? And then doing the research on the back end. Again, our search page and the Education Abroad and Exchanges website does a really good job trying to give you those breadcrumbs trails so that you can go in as much as you want for research, or just getting the general tips that can help you. And we're always happy to chat with your students. We do emails, phone calls, in-person meetings, Zoom meetings. We really try to be as flexible so that your students can ask us questions and get some guidance from us who've been around the block a couple times. And then always apply through the UKEA website. Deadlines are going to be a big thing. We do hold students to deadlines. We do try to be as flexible as we can. If a student has a situation that they missed a deadline, please reach out to us. We want students to go on these experiences We don't just want to be seen as like a barrier to them. Scholarships, definitely. I would say as soon as you are thinking of study abroad, look at the scholarships, because sometimes scholarship deadlines are earlier than application for the program deadline. So getting those dates in your phone so that you get reminders to do something is, I think, a really good pro tip that I can pass on. And again, the through line through all of this is our office is here. Our job is to support the students, so please use our resources. Again, we get to live kind of vicariously a little bit through your students when they say like, I'm going to go to Greece, or, hey, I heard you went to Japan. Tell me about that. We're more than happy to sit and chat if we've got the time to do that. And so I think that moves us into, we're going to do some FAQs first, and then we're going to get to your questions that you've been putting in the Q&A session. So keep those coming. But we might have touched on a few of those with our FAQs here. So Niamh, I think you're up first with the first one.
Yeah, so a question we often get asked is, where can my students go? And we have about 70 locations, give or take, every year that we have program options in. The most important thing for everyone to know is we monitor the U.S. State Department travel advisories very closely. So if the U.S. government determines that a location is not safe for travelers, we do not permit students to travel to those locations. So we have a very, comprehensive risk management plan and process, as well as a dedicated global risk manager who works in the International Center with us. So we make sure the locations of where students will be going are safe. And oftentimes students do choose their program locations based on where they want to go, as they've always wanted to go to Italy, or they've always wanted to go to Paris, or wherever that may be. And we love to support students in those plans and those ideas, but we always try to remember and remind them that it'll be important, whatever program location they choose, that they can that they need to make sure there's an academic perspective thought about, like, does that location have classes that will count towards what they are studying here at UK? But most of our program locations do have a wide variety of classes, so that's usually not an issue. Another question that we get asked, oh, I think this is Kate's question. Sorry, we're tag teaming.
Doesn't matter. This one kind of like fits in with my experience is, does a student need to speak another language? Generally, no, but there are programs that are offered that are specifically for language acquisition. So I chose a program where I knew it was very clear that I was going to have to use my limited Japanese experience, and I would be learning a lot more Japanese than I would here, in the US. So I opted into that. The majority of our programs, language of instruction is in English. Most of the time, there is an opportunity for students to take that language of the country. So if you're going to France, your program options might offer like an intro to the French language. So again, it is not required unless it is a language intensive program. I know that can be very kind of anxiety and driving when you're like, but I don't speak Japanese, or I don't know any of the dialects of India. We've got you, don't worry.
Yeah, and another question that students often ask is where they will be living, right? Student housing is such a big part of their collegiate experience here on campus, and so we know that they want to know where and what type of housing they will be in. The most popular type of housing abroad is actually apartments. So many of our students are placed in apartments with other students on their programs, but their neighbors may be families, they may be elderly couples. So they live really within that community wherever they are studying. Some short-term programs use hostels and hotels primarily. And we do have homestays as an option, and that's great for those students who are really interested in perfecting and learning a language. So many, for example, of our Spanish-speaking locations have homestays as an option. The good thing about homestays is that they are usually the most affordable housing option for students. So if affordability is a factor, Most of the homestays include 2 meals a day, if not 3, depending on the location and time of the program. So students would be staying with a local family that's fully vetted and receives training to receive and support students, and they would be able to eat meals with those family members or maybe have a takeaway lunch as to when they're in class. So for affordability factor, homestay is usually our most popular. It seems really nerve-wracking to students, the idea of living with people who they don't know, but we tell them that it usually is a great way for them to really understand and make connections with the local community because they're really experiencing family life in another country and what that looks like. And there are also residence halls. So for certain universities, they have residence halls similar to what they have here at UK. The bigger thing with residence halls that sometimes happens abroad is that they may not be contained within a campus. Some of our campuses are more urban campuses, so the residence halls may not be within the campus, but they're connected to the campus and connected to the university, but the students may have to travel a little bit for that to get from their housing to where their classroom space is. One thing for most students when they go abroad, it isn't a roll out of bed at 8:15 and run across campus quickly for your 8:30 class. Most of our students learn about commuting when they study abroad. So many of our students study in big cities like in Barcelona or in London or in Rome, and they are commuting like other people who live there. And so that is usually a big adjustment for our students, but they really enjoy that process. We often hear about students talking about how much they enjoy walking through the streets of Rome on their way to class and seeing and experiencing the local culture. So.
All right, how does my student receive academic credit? I briefly mentioned that we try our hardest that if the students go through us, everything that they take abroad academic course-wise should come back to UK as something. Students are, asked to look at the courses before they select a study abroad program. There are ways to also find course equivalencies before they go abroad. There's a course pre-approval form that we use in our office. It is good to note the UK credit versus transfer credit. So if your student is going on a faculty directed program, there's no question about that. Those credits will be UK credits because they are taught by a UK faculty. All the other programs generally come back as transfer credits. However, your students are not held to the rule that they need to do the last 20 some credits here on a UK campus. So they can still study abroad during their junior and even senior years if needed. The students are enrolled in what we call EAP 599, which is kind of like a pre-departure check-in on while you're abroad and some post kind of abroad reflection pieces. That helps us keep track of students when they're going abroad. In the semester type programs, we call these placeholder credits. So it might only look like that's what your student is taking here at the University of Kentucky, but when they are finished with their program, that's when all of the individual classes will show up on their transcripts. And again, this is just our way of helping students stay on track to graduate. We don't want any student to come back and say, oh, this set me back by a year. That's something that we do not want to hear, and we try very hard not to hear. All right, what's our next one?
So it's Study Abroad Safe. We touched on this briefly, but again, our office monitors regularly world events and are tracking things that are happening. We do provide students with a very comprehensive international medical insurance policy as part of a requirement for them to go abroad, which does include access to both physical and mental health resources in country, and allows students to not necessary, depending on how they access the insurance. We always tell students, if you contact the insurance company, often the students don't even have to pay anything out of pocket when they go to the doctor. It's all covered as part of the insurance plan. We also have an international crisis response protocol, and we do trainings with various individuals from around the university annually to ensure that we are best ready and able to support students in the event of any sort of emergency situation. We have a strong international network of partners abroad who are there to support and provide help and assistance to students, whether they are physically unwell or are experiencing any sort of crisis. So safety and security of our students is our top priority, and that's really where we try and focus our efforts in ensuring that students feel safe and have as safe an experience as possible.
What travel documents will they need? Passports are for sure, and do not wait until the last minute to get that going. Campus, we have the Wildcat Passport Services, which is a nice one-stop shop for students to start those applications. Something that you might be able to help your student with is making sure that they have copies of their birth certificates. If this is the first time that they're getting a passport, they will need a few extra documents. So kind of dust off those kind of things and send them with your student when they're ready to apply for that first passport. Depending on their program length and location, there might be entry visas or just documents that are needed. And again, on our cost sheet, we'll do our best to estimate those costs and talk to the students and let them know, like, yeah, you might have to travel up to Chicago to get to the Japanese consulate, or something like that. So there may be some times where there is additional legwork involved.
So how can I help my student get started? So hopefully after this presentation, you guys will have a little bit more information about how to help and support your students who are interested in studying abroad. I think understanding and learning about the students' goals, helping them to process and create goals around studying abroad is really important. What are they hoping to get out of it? Are they looking for experiencing different types of international careers, and maybe an international internship is an option? Are they trying to go abroad for a short amount of time because they need to work during the summer? Maybe a faculty directed program would be great. So helping the students both understand what their goals are, as well as figuring out when is a good time for them to go abroad based on their academic calendar and their academic requirements, making sure the students are talking to their academic advisors and asking them questions about their academic credits, helping them do research, encouraging them to do their own research to figure out where they might like to go, how long they want to go, what type of courses are out there, understanding costs, how much it costs for the programs that they're looking at. Understanding what a realistic price point is, right? So students in seeing if they understand kind of spending money and helping them to maybe plan working through the summer to save some money to be able to afford extra trips and travel while they are participating in their education abroad. Those are things that I think are great conversations that you can now, no matter where your student is in their academic career, whether they're a first year, a junior, any of those times, you could start to have those conversations.
All right. So before we get to your questions, it's also important for us to understand expectations. So there will need to be some level of ownership on students for this experience. What we say and recommend might not equate to exactly what they want or need. So if you can encourage your student, again, to do all those research, plan things, have conversations, we really do want them to gain all these important life skills while they're abroad. And again, that might be on you to also remind them, like, oh, make sure you do this, but also ask them questions like, how's it going? How can I help? Have you talked to your education abroad advisor? We are here to help, but again, students, this is for them. This is what they want and an investment in themselves. So they'll also have to do a bit of work as well. And so the next slide, just remember that we also have to abide by FERPA. So that's the Educational Records Privacy Act. So we might not be able to tell you every specific detailed conversation that we've had with your student unless they have a FERPA release. We definitely recommend communication for any kind of accommodations, from allergies to medication questions. We'll do our best, but again, that communication is expected. And it doesn't hurt to have someone in your family also having a current passport. Again, just in case you need to head over there and hang out with them in the hospital if something happened, or go and join them at the end of the program. That's always a nice kind of celebration. Don't hesitate to reach out to EA with any questions or concerns. Again, we're here to help. We would like to be seen as helpful as possible. And I think that's kind of it. We do have some website pieces. Again, for program discovery, that's where you'll find the cost pages once you found the program that you like. They'll have list of courses. We're working on more robust course lists that have been pre-approved. So look forward to that in the near future. And students can make an appointment directly from the website with one of their education abroad advisors. So yes, they will have an academic advisor at UK, and then depending on their college, they will also have an education abroad and exchanges advisor.
So I guess now we can jump into the Q&As that you guys have dropped in the Q&A section. So we'll just go through these and answer as many of them live as we can. It looks like we have about 15 minutes, I believe, left. So I think we should be able to get through many of these questions. And if you have additional questions, please continue to add them into the Q&A section. So the first question is, for partner programs, how can one confirm if 529 funds are eligible to be used for a study abroad program? I know key criteria for using 529 funds is that a program must be eligible for Title IV federal funding. I've noticed some programs, some of the ISA offerings mention affiliation with the university for transcript purposes. Others simply indicate the name of, for example, the French or Spanish university that is hosting. So we often tell students to confirm the 529 and families to confirm 529 with Student Account Services. They're great partners in that to understand how students and families can use their 529 accounts. I will say all students are enrolled as UK students during their program. So they are enrolled at the university, and we complete their Title IV verification for them while they are abroad. Once they complete their course assignments in the EAP 599 course, and we do receive academic transcripts from all students who go abroad, and those credits are applied to their UK transcript. So we do know that students are able to use, and families are able to use 529 funds, but those specific, based on which actual 529 accounts you have, it would be best for you to talk with Student Account Services.
And it's not a financial aid question. So yeah, Student Account Services would be the right group to go to.
Yeah. The next question is, are there study abroad opportunities available for recent graduates who are no longer enrolled at the university? Should we look into gap year programming through a partner like ISA or AIFS? Yes, so our office, once the students have graduated, our office does not manage those experiences, but many of the providers like AIFS, ISA do offer gap year programming. Additionally, there are some volunteer and work travel-based experiences that students can participate in after they've graduated. I know that, for example, the Fulbright program has a teaching English opportunity where you can apply after you've graduated to teach English abroad. Many country governments, like the Spanish government, the French government, the Japanese government, also have programs to allow students to go, or recent graduates to go abroad and teach English. That's a very popular thing for students to do once they have graduated from there. And those are usually paid experiences. The biggest thing when students are looking for those types of programs, we always tell them, is to be really mindful of visas and visa requirements and work and labor laws in those countries to make sure that they have the proper authorization to be able to live, work, and or do gap year studying abroad after they graduate.
One is where to find the cost page. So again, Chelsea has maneuvered to our search page. You just hit the program search, find the program, and then they should be on that page. So everything you would want is going to be on this, and there should be, yep, right there, program cost page.
And
So-
then different at the top, you can select the term where it says fall 25. You can select the different terms based on what term your student is studying. We usually update those every year once we know current tuition rates for the University of Kentucky and program rates for the programs. So it usually happens over the summer. So we'll transition from academic year 24-25 to academic year 25-26, usually in June, maybe July, depending on when program rates are announced.
Next question is about talking to financial aid before the end of this semester to discuss costs and scholarships for spring 2026. Right now, the new academic year for 25-26 hasn't been finalized in terms of financial aid awards. So it might be a little bit early to go and get actual specifics. I don't think they're going to ever turn you away and be angry with you asking questions, but just know it might be slightly early now. I would recommend, if nothing has really changed in your financial world, what you currently were awarded for this spring should be very similar again, unless something huge has changed to next spring. So that's that. And then, does my student have to wait for acceptance into a program before applying for scholarships? Not for the education abroad scholarship process, which on that program page where you found the program costs, there's also a tab for scholarships. That'll tell you all about the different deadlines for our cycles. And we encourage students that if they are for sure that they're going, they don't know where yet, yes, if the application is open for the scholarship, please do apply.
It's usually about a year out. So if you have a student who's a first-year student and they're looking to apply and go abroad, maybe their junior year, they would want to wait. They wouldn't want to apply right now for the scholar. It's usually kind of the year before they plan to go abroad. So there's a little bit of planning element built in, but it's not multi-year planning. It's usually about a year in advance. The next question is, if my student is interested in a summer abroad program and could possibly graduate in 3.5 years, could her scholarship financial aid for that last semester be applied to her summer education abroad? Potentially, yes. It really depends on which scholarship she's received from the university. And so that would be a great question for her to talk to financial aid counselor and scholarship advisor about, because there's multiple different types of scholarships at the University of Kentucky, and each of them have different requirements based on enrollment and timing. And so we would definitely encourage her to, for her to look at that with the scholarship office. I feel like that has happened in the past, but every student's situation is different. So I don't think we could give a blanket answer for that without knowing the specific scholarship names. The next question is, when are my daughter's UK billed items due when she's going this summer? I haven't seen it show up on her UK account just yet. Also, it was approved for her to use her Provost scholarship for the summer, and we haven't seen it applied yet. How does that work? We've taken care of the cost associated billed from Regent. So the student is being currently enrolled in EAP 599, that summer course. So that happened last week and this week. As soon as summer tuition is posted, you should see the summer tuition cost for the EAP 599 course. Most likely that will happen in May. Also on or around May 1st, the students will be billed for their international medical insurance charges, which is $10.50 a week. So anything that's billed in the month of May will be due based on UK's student account schedule by June, around the 22nd of the month of June. So it's usually the bills are due about a month after they're posted on the student's account. Again, for the Provost Scholarship Award, that question would need to go to the Scholarship and Financial Aid Office. But usually those most scholarships post 1 to 2 weeks after the semester starts at UK. But again, for that specific scholarship, you'd want to check with the scholarship office.
There's a question about another faculty directed class in fall to New York City. Our office is tasked with facilitating academic credit bearing programs that are international. So that means that our office doesn't necessarily handle the domestic study away, if you will. So for this case, we do not facilitate Dr. Wesley's program that goes to New York City. We do facilitate the one that she teaches that goes to Paris and for 26 to Italy. So that would be something you want to reach out to your department in terms of scholarships and costs for that.
In terms of if any other students from UK will be joining her this summer, your student can reach out to her EA advisor and ask that question. We can't share students' information without seeking permission from the other students. So we can email the students who are going on the program to see if they'd be willing to give their permission to have their names shared, but we don't proactively and without permission share information about other students who are going on the programs. But oftentimes, if a student asks, we can send an email to all the participants on the program. And if they are interested and willing to get their program information shared, sometimes the programs are not, international programs are not necessarily under the same FERPA regulations that the US institutions are. So sometimes the programs themselves are able to share that information a lot easier than we are because of FERPA. So oftentimes another thing that we tell students is to ask your program, the people in England, if and when they'll be sharing the participant list, because they often, like I said, don't have the same rules that apply. And then how early should my daughter start the process to go abroad? Well, I would encourage her to start tomorrow. But what we mean by that is really having those conversations. So the next time she meets with her academic advisor, to make sure that she tells her academic advisor, hey, I am interested in studying abroad. Can you help me understand my degree plan? Can you help me understand what courses I need to take? Can you help me understand, are there specific courses that would be really good for me to do abroad? Are there specific courses that I need to take here at UK? Depending on her major, it may be that there are really specific courses. For example, a lot of students who are on the pre-med track, a lot of those pre-med science courses that are required for entry into medical school, they have to be taken here at UK. However, other courses such as UK core or electives could be taken abroad. So having a good understanding of what students and when students can and should go abroad based on their courses is a really great start. I think also we have informational sessions called First Step sessions, and those are led by our peer ambassadors. During the semester, they run every day. During the semester and in the summer, they run once a week. And that's another great opportunity for your student, if she has not done a First Step session, for her to attend one of those. And that's where we kind of break down some of the same information we've given you all today about how to search for programs, how to search for scholarships, how to understand where information about program costs is, helping them to understand and learn about kind of what the different types of options out there are. So if she hasn't attended one of those, that would be a great thing to do. Meeting with her education abroad advisor, as Kate mentioned, every UK student is assigned an education abroad advisor based on their academic college. And so she can talk to them and ask, about different programs. Hey, I'm interested in going to Barcelona, and I see you have 2 different programs in Barcelona. Can you help me understand which one is going to be a better fit for me? Also, to actually apply, most students, right now we have students applying as far out as spring 26. So usually more than a year in advance. We don't encourage students to actually start an application, but research immediately. You could start that today. So.
And then I just want to say one thing. The First Step sessions will run on this schedule that I'm showing on my screen until Friday. And then starting on Monday, like Niamh mentioned, they'll be once a week online. They're going to be Mondays at 12:30. So we'll get this page updated, but just so you know, and you can pass that information on to your students. Summer First Step sessions will be Mondays at 12:30 until classes start back, and then we'll resume on an every day of the week schedule.
We have some programs for spring 26 already open, those that we've been able to confirm program dates and costs. Some programs we're waiting on some additional information. If your student is interested in a specific program that is not yet open, they can reach out to their Education Abroad advisor and get a little bit better understanding of the time frame of when they are expected to be open. Some programs, we have actual running lists of interested students where you can get on that list. So when the program opens, we email the students and let them know. But it really, we already have students who have already applied for spring 26 programs, and we'll have more open soon. They should all be open by August. Are most students accepted into their programs? Are they competitive? It depends. So our exchange programs, those are usually the most competitive because most exchange programs have a limit of usually somewhere between 1 and 5 students each term. So those can be quite competitive. So those are programs specifically where we do have a list of students who are interested, and once the program's open, we email the students on the list and they're told, if you're interested in this program, please apply quickly. For some of the faculty directed programs, they can be quite competitive because there's program maximums. So, each group has a maximum amount of students that a program is able to take. And so that is usually what is the competitive piece. For most of our partner programs, they are not competitive, but we encourage students to apply early because oftentimes some programs, while may not be academically competitive, meaning that you have to have particularly high GPAs, some of them have space capacity issues. And so the competitiveness comes with applying early.
Wow, what great questions. I love that we had so many and you all provided such detailed and thoughtful information that hopefully has provided good food for thought for a number of our students and their families. Well, now that we're here a couple minutes past 1 o'clock Eastern time, know that folks have busy days both here on campus and you all watching from wherever you are. But to Niamh and Kate and Chelsea, thanks so much for being here with us today and providing all this great information. And to our families, thanks for taking the time out of your schedules as well to be with us. If there's any remaining questions, I encourage you to use the website links that have been in the chat. You're always welcome to email parents@uky.edu and we'll help you get connected to our wonderful campus partners as well. Well, we'll let you go at this point. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.